Hey, this is John Grillo, Director of Photography on Westworld, and you're listening to the Go Creative Show.
Hey everyone, my name is Ben Consoli. I'm a director and owner of BC Media Productions, and this is the Go Creative Show, the show dedicated to creative professionals in the video production and filmmaking industries. John Grillo is the director of photography for season 2 of the HBO series Westworld, and he's on the show today to discuss his accomplished career and the challenges and rewards of shooting Westworld on film. The Go Creative Show is supported by Rule Boston Camera, Buy Rent Create at Rule.com, NewsShooter.com, essential news for real-world shooters, Hedge.video, the fastest way to back up media, Shutterstock.com, and PremiumBeat.com. I am so excited for today's show. I am a huge fan of Westworld, and season 2 is awesome. So lots of cool stuff coming up with John Grillo. But before we get there, let's talk about Rule Boston Camera. Rule Boston Camera is the place to go to purchase and rent all of your production equipment. But I think the most valuable thing that they offer is the relationship with their clients, the partnership with their clients. I mean, that's why I go back constantly, right? Their service is impeccable. It really is, because this is a mission-critical business, really. I mean, not to get over dramatic, but it is. You know, you get one chance to shoot something. You're spending a lot of money on gear. You want to make sure it's the right gear. You want to make sure you've made the right decision. And the right decisions are made when you have information, when you truly understand what it is that you're buying or renting. You know, especially renting, because I'm renting because I don't own it. And so if I don't own it, I don't necessarily know all the ins and outs of a piece of equipment. And that's what you learn at Rule Boston Camera. They're committed to that. They have a world-class inventory of rental gear, cameras, audio, lighting, grip gear, communications, things like Movies and Black Arms and Easy Rigs. I mean, they have everything that you could possibly need. But what they have that's the most valuable is their experience and their service. The relationship you build with your Rule Boston Camera representative is invaluable. And that's why I love those guys. So check them out, rule.com, RULE.com, and go buy some stuff and go rent some stuff. Let's jump right in to our spotlight with Director of Photography of Westworld Season 2 and a whole bunch of other things that we'll get into. We want to welcome him to the show, John Grillo. So I'm here with John Grillo, cinematographer and director of photography for Westworld Season 2. So happy to have you on, John. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite.
We had a lot of Skype issues leading up to this and wasted almost 20 minutes, which is such a bummer, but I really do appreciate your time. And I hope you can be a little flexible with your time today.
No worries. I've just finished working on Preacher. I'm back home in Seattle. So I have all the time in the world right now. The kids are in school. It's all good. Look
at you plugging in the first 10 seconds. Good for you. I love that. And you know, it's funny because we have a lot of cinematographers, director of photography, camera operators. We have a lot of people in the industry that come on this show and they have a hard time kind of plugging their own projects, and I have to pry it out of them sometimes. And it's
really?
Yeah, it is. I don't know what it is. I think some people they live behind the camera. That's where they need to be. They don't really talk very much about their stuff, and they just kind of keep it under their hat, and I have to draw it out of them. So,
oh, really? No. I totally love to talk about projects I'm on. I'm very proud of them. And I like to talk about upcoming projects, especially if I know that I'm officially on them. What I do have this very weird, what's the word? I feel like it's bad luck to talk about a project that you haven't officially gotten yet. So that's my only thing that I do is I'll never talk about something that's coming up until I know for certain that I'm doing it.
Is that usually a long time span between first meeting and actually getting the job officially?
Sometimes, sometimes there's things that are happening behind the scenes with the studios, the producers, that are larger discussions that they're having, and they just take a little longer to make up their minds.
Yeah.
I think in the case of my next project, they were just deciding whether they were going to use 2 DPs or 1 DP, and I think that's why they were taking a little longer.
Is that a confirmed project you can talk about?
Yes, yes, it's a TV adaptation of the movie Snowpiercer.
No way.
Yeah, yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. It sounds fantastic. It's for those of you who know the film, it all takes place on a train, which is a challenge itself to think about a whole season of a show, 10 episodes that take place on a train. But it's a very sci-fi futuristic kind of story. And the train is 1,000 cars long. So there are a lot of variety of cars in there.
Wow.
But it's something I'm very excited about. Yeah, it's going to be shooting in Vancouver.
Ah, that's so cool. When does it start?
Yeah. Shooting August, first week of August, something like that.
That is coming up. And what did they end up doing? Did they end up doing 2 DPs or just 1?
I believe the word is 2, but I'm not sure yet who the other DP might be at this point. I only found out today, as a matter of fact.
But wow! I'm very excited. Congratulations!
I'm excited about the job, but I'm also very excited because I live in Seattle, and it's a 2.5-hour drive to Vancouver. So
oh my God!
It's being close to home. It's really kind of. I've been all over the place, all over the world, traveling around shooting the last 3-4 years. So it's kind of nice to finally be able to be somewhere close that's drivable,
Let's dive into Westworld a little bit, and I certainly want to talk about Preacher. And I'm very interested in your kind of rise to this position as director of photography. Just reading your bio, I mean, talk about humble beginnings. You really did start as an assistant and turned into a focus puller, and it's an interesting story, and we're going to get there, people. But I want to start at Westworld because it's a hot show in season 2. Everybody loves it. I love it. How did you get involved with this project?
It happened while I was doing season 2 of Preacher in New Orleans. I had done a show with one of the executive producers, Gene Kelly, called The Leftovers. And we did season 3 of The Leftovers. And Gene is somebody that I admire and I respect a lot as a producer. He's just a fantastic person and a very, very capable producer. And he got on Westworld season 2, and I guess it probably came up in discussions recommending DPs. My name, he proposed my name, and I interviewed for the job and got it.
Now, were you the primary DP for Leftovers?
Yes. Well, it's yes and no, because Leftovers season 3, there was Michael Grady shot the first 2 episodes in Austin, and then I went off to Australia and alternated with Robert Humphreys on the remaining 6 episodes. So I did 3, he did 3. So I guess, there were 3 DPs on it. Whether, I think Michael Grady is probably the one that's done the most episodes out of all of us on Leftovers in general.
And you're working with other director of photographies on Westworld season 2 as well. Who are those guys?
Well, I was alternating with Darren Tiernan. And he started the show. He shot the first episode. And it was going to be only myself and him. We were going to do odds and evens. But our schedule got a little convoluted towards the middle of the shoot. And they brought in David Mullen to shoot as well. So David came in and started shooting some additional photography, and in the end ended up getting his own episode to shoot.
That's great.
Yeah, it's great. And he's a great guy and a great cinematographer. And so he got episode, I believe it's episode 7 and part of 8, I think. And Darren Tiernan is a really, really fantastic human being and a great cinematographer as well. I guess he's well known for American Gods, I believe is the name of the show.
Yep, American Gods.
Yeah.
Designated Survivor, he does too.
Exactly.
Yeah, really good stuff there. How can you talk to me about the relationship that you have working with other DPs on a show like Westworld? I mean, what sort of collaboration are you guys, communicating early on? And also, do you feel like you have the freedom to kind of do what you want, even though there's other ones there?
Yeah, Darren came on and did the prep for Westworld, and had a lot of meetings with Jonah, the showrunner, before the show started. I was still shooting in New Orleans on Preacher at that time, so when I came on, maybe a week or so before they were about to start principal photography, I also had a couple meetings with Jonah, but mainly I sat down with Darren and basically he talked to me about all the conversations he had had with Jonah and all the references and visual references that they had discussed. And it was very, very easy to pick up on that with him. So him and I decided to just kind of create a language for the show that was not dissimilar to what came before, but something that we could both kind of maintain as a unit for the whole show, and style-wise. It was very helpful in conversation. So it wasn't very, very difficult to do that. And then obviously, when you come on a show like that and you're alternating with another DP or you're coming into a second season of a show, there's a certain visual style that you have to adhere to or respect in a way. And I mean, it's inherent really on the sets, when you go to the Western town and Sweetwater and when you shoot the interior labs and all of that.
Yeah.
There's already an inherent look to the show that's there. And so the things that you can bring to the table on your own are probably details like composition and blocking and, and obviously if you have new sets to shoot, those kind of things you can bring in and add a little of your own condiments to it, to the soup.
Well, you guys have a great opportunity in season 2 because there's a whole new world now. Like, you have the Westworld, obviously, you still have the labs, but now you have the world outside of Westworld, which was not in season 1. So,
right.
Essentially you are creating from scratch a whole new major facet of the season. And I'd love to get your thoughts on kind of strategizing that and how you made that blend with the existing worlds that are already there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess after you spend the whole season 1, going through the landscapes of Utah and the Western mythology and the sci-fi part of it, the labs and all of that, when you come, and for the fans of the show, when you come to season 2 and suddenly you have the main character out in what we call the real world, it's already a shock. It's already just that fact is shocking. I think it was, it was the bringing in of what was very important. I think was the bringing in of electricity, electric lights, neons, that kind of stuff. When Dolores is sitting in that penthouse suite, looking out at the night sky, at the night landscape of the city, and all these flickering lights and everything. That's she's so in shock of and in trying to comprehend what she's looking at, what she's seeing. That we we wanted to play with those the soft focus, blobs of light floating like stars scattered on the ground, as she says,
Yeah.
Bringing that as part of the landscape. And then, then later on you see these amazing views of skyscrapers at night and everything. And so I guess that was what we tried to do, is to bring in the shock of seeing that for the very first time, not only to our characters, but the viewers themselves within the show, within the mythology of the show. It was a little challenging because we shot in some high rises in downtown LA that had very heavily tinted windows, as they usually do for sunlight.
Yeah.
And so shooting at night was a bit of a challenge because it was like shooting through an 9 glass, and to try and bring the outside world at night into exposure into the room required a bit of testing. I had to go out to that restaurant. It's actually a restaurant up in like the 20th floor of a building somewhere in downtown LA, and I had to go out and shoot some tests with film. Because if you look at it with digital, if you take an Alexa out there or what have you, there's a certain level of comfort with that, because I came up through the digital age as a DP, and I'm comfortable with knowing what digital can do in terms of low level lighting. But film is another animal, and so it requires some testing. So I had to do a little bit of pushing film to get the exposure of the city lights coming in through that ND glass, and at the same time have the right levels inside for the party scene with all the hosts. So a bit challenging. Film was it was very exciting to shoot film. It was definitely a challenge. I hadn't done it, to be honest with you, as a full-on DP. The last time I shot film, I think, was like 15, 20 years back, when I was shot a short, no-budget short film on 16 millimeter.
Wow.
And so, but I have to say, I loved it. I loved shooting film. As a matter of fact, I wish I could shoot all my projects on film. It was fantastic.
So you get into this project, you have a background in digital, except for just the short film you did on 16.
Right.
When they came to you, so you must have known ahead of time that this was going to be shooting on film.
Yes.
Okay, so this wasn't a decision that you guys had made. So
no.
Did you have, like, obviously you're not going to turn down the job. I mean, that's insane.
No.
So, but did you like fess up to them early on and be like, listen, I haven't done this? You didn't.
No.
I love that.
I did not. Well, let me say this. It never came up in conversation in my interview.
Perfect.
It was just a given. Nobody asked me. I just went with it. And I was nervous as hell, obviously. But I did work, as I came up in my film history, my film career, as an assistant, I obviously worked on film, for a very long time.
Sure.
And I worked with some really, I had the tremendous luck of working with some really great cinematographers. And, I learned a lot, paid a lot of attention, and I shot film on stills, so yes, I was nervous, but at the same time, if you do enough testing, that goes away. You get over that hump. So I just jumped in.
That is awesome that you didn't say anything. I love that. I mean, who would?
I know.
But it's funny that they didn't ask, because I mean, I don't think it's safe to assume that every DP has film experience, especially now. I mean, you can have an entire career and never touch it.
Well, it's so funny because both Darren and I were kind of on the same boat. We both were afterwards. We were both calling each other as like, dude, when did you shoot film last? It was like, I think he shot film not as long ago as I did, but it'd been a long time for him as well.
Wow.
So we were kind of both on the same boat, but we did a lot of testing before. I went out one day and shot all around Sweetwater, all around the set. I went in and shot in the labs, processed the film. It came back, and I was really, really pleasantly surprised at what film can do. I mean, I was nervous at first because you get used to your monitors. You know, you get used to how we work nowadays, which is what you see is what you get. You know, you get these beautiful monitors there. You see the image. You, if you're lucky to have a DIT, which nowadays is also kind of a hard thing to come by for some shows.
It's hard because correct. They don't want budget. They don't have budget for it.
Yeah, nowadays a lot of shows aren't hiring DITs. Like it's been a long time since I've used a DIT, to be honest. Not by choice, just because certain shows don't put it in their budget anymore.
What are they doing for media management and like on-set coloring and stuff?
Well, there's no on-set coloring. Like I haven't done on-set coloring in a very long time.
So what are you looking at? Like, are you just looking at like LUTs in the monitor or something?
Rec 709.
Wow.
Rec 709. Because I think the reason, Ben, is that since now we're really shooting raw, almost, we're now at the point where we're shooting almost as a standard now, 4K raw. That is a huge amount of information. That's shooting negative, basically, in film terms, right? Shooting on a negative. It's almost taking it back to how you would treat a film, a negative. You shoot it and then you light it the way you like to light it. You use your color, you color it, you light it, on set, and then later on you tweak it in the color correction. So basically, what I've been doing now lately on digital is shooting Rec 709 as a base. That is my base look, and I'll just look at that on the monitor, because I tried doing the LUTs, individual LUTs and all of that, and it sometimes can get a little confusing and problematic, to do that if you don't have somebody that's managing it for you on set.
Yeah.
And changing LUTs and all of that. So basically, I just go with one LUT for everything, and then I do my color correction later.
I guess it's pretty safe unless you have a very specific look that needs to be lit differently to achieve. But there's so much latitude in these cameras. I mean, you really can get a lot.
There really is. There really is. I mean, and like I said, you're shooting raw. You have so much information there. And that's the one thing nowadays that is kind of, it's a little distressing for me sometimes, because I have a hard time now. I have a hard time liking, I don't know, for a better word, lack of a better word, liking what I shoot. In other words, when I see the finished product sometimes, it's gone through so many processes and throws so many hands, the colorist, me and the colorist, then the showrunner gets involved, then other people get involved with the look of the show. It goes through so many levels that sometimes the end result is not exactly what you were thinking of. You know what I mean?
Let's take a quick break and talk about Hedge.video. What is Hedge, you ask? Well, Hedge is a backup software for filmmakers. It's that simple. It is incredibly fast, and it allows you to keep track of everything with these really fantastic transfer logs that you get after every transfer. But here's the big thing. You could import multiple sources and send it to multiple destinations at the same time. Think about that. You're on set. You get the media card from your camera operator. You can make multiple backups from multiple sources. So they can give you card 1, card 2, the audio card, everything that you need, and you can just send it out to all of your hard drives. It's going to be done fast. It's going to be done accurately. And if you have the Hedge Connect app for your phone, you'll know when the transfer is done, so you don't have to sit there and wait for it. So think about this. Think about this. You take a break, you go to lunch, you set your hedge. Midway through lunch, you get a little notification that the transfer is done. Think of the peace of mind that that gives you. That alone is worth every cent that this app costs. That's for sure. Now let's talk about cost. There's a free trial available. You can also buy project licensing, so if you just need it for a limited time. And they're constantly updating the app. So there's always going to be new features being added. Automatic duplicate detection is one of the new features. And they just keep adding new features. This app is constantly being innovated. Now you get a 20% off discount if you go to hedge.video/Go Creative Show. So go there, check it out. Do the free trial. See how you love it. I know you'll love it. But see how you like it. Do the free trial. And then when you're ready to purchase, hedge.video/Go Creative Show, get a 20% off discount and start your transfers. You are going to love this app. So let's get back to it. We've got so much more to talk about with cinematographer and director of photography of Westworld Season 2, John Grillo. This is an interesting topic because a lot of people don't necessarily talk about this. So when you're doing all your references, you're building boards or whatever you're doing to show the references, are your references, I guess, where are those references realized? Are they realized on set with your Rec 709 or just slight grading, or are they realized later on in color grade? Because it's sounding like you're, not all the time, but occasionally not necessarily happy with the way that things have been colored and adjusted near the end.
Yes, oftentimes. And sometimes it's episode to episode. I basically only do TV now.
Are you feeling like your references just don't get realized later on, or they just get, tossed aside?
Oftentimes they don't.
Really?
And oftentimes it's other hands that get involved in the post work. And when I was coming up as an assistant and I worked with the DPs that I used to work with, I always used to hear from them. One in particular, you always used to tell me that, cinematographers are losing the value and the respect that they used to have back in the day. And he was this DP in particular was seeing the storm that was coming with digital. In other words, it was kind of getting out of our hands as cinematographers. The look of the show or the look of the film was getting out of our hands because there was a certain mystery back in the day on film as to how you achieve the look of a film, very organic through the chemical aspect of cinematography, the pushing and pulling, the texture, the cross-processing, whatever you wanted to bleach, bypass, all those kind of things that you were able to do as a cinematographer. There was a certain mystery to it. You were on set and you had a video tap on the camera. I don't know if you're old enough to remember this, but you had a video tap on the film camera and your video monitor was a little black and white video monitor that you only used it for reference, really, for the director, just to be able to see the composition.
Framing composition.
See the framing composition, hear the actors, see the actors' faces, etc. But there wasn't much discussion about, well, is it too bright? Is it too dark? Is this color too red? Is this too blue? That was the cinematographer's world, Nowadays, our monitors are so, they're so amazing. High-res 4K monitors that you have on set that everybody can jump in and have an opinion about brightness, color, light, this, that. It just slowly kind of gets out of the hands of the cinematographer a little bit. And then when it goes into post-production, there's another layer of other people's input that gets involved. So I don't know if this is a conversation that we're getting too deep into, but it's just something that it frustrates me a little bit sometimes.
I find it incredibly interesting because it's like, I mean, we're doing completely different work. Obviously, working at vastly different levels. I direct commercial work here in the Boston, New England area. But like, to see that you guys at your level are having similar problems is interesting. It takes a lot of work to stay on top of these projects once they get out of your hands. Like, it really is challenging. And this crazy thing is even like as a director, for a commercial director, oftentimes it goes back to the ad agencies and it's kind of out of your hands, which is nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, I always thought that if you're directing a commercial, it's your vision from start to finish. And that is just not the case on a lot of the work that I'm not all the work. I'd say not a lot, but I mean, when I'm working with very established creative directors and ad agencies, it's pretty much their project that I'm just there to help support their vision. It's not necessarily my vision, but I go into it knowing that and it's fine. But it's like, to see that that's also happening at your level with huge shows like that it's pretty remarkable. I mean, I know
happens.
Just to kind of finish up what I was saying with that, is it's like, there are times, honestly, with the monitoring situation, there are times that I go in and I'll talk to the client and I'll be like, this monitor is just for, this is a reference of composition, and that's it. Like, we're not talking about color. We're not talking about exposure. This is it. It's just, and it's, you really do have to kind of set those ground rules sometimes right on set, at least the work I'm doing. I don't know how it is on your end.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. Look, I it's so funny because when I started shooting, I had a method of working that was, let's say, I was very protective of my work. I was very protective because I had been trained, or I had been, schooled by certain directors of photography about the ethics of shooting and the etiquette and all of that, old school guys. And so I was very protective of what was my realm, what I felt was, this is my sandbox. This is what I do. This is my thing. But I had to adapt, really, because it became very conflicting sometimes on set to have that. I realized that it's a collaboration, which I thoroughly enjoy. I enjoy collaborating on set. Don't get me wrong. I love that, and I'll take input from anybody. But there used to be a time when I was very protective of that.
Yeah.
And it was a losing battle. It was like, am I just going to grow, am I just going to get, I'm going to get more gray hairs. Why am I suffering like this? I just have to embrace it. The technology's here. Everybody's seeing it. Let's all do this together. Okay, fine. Everybody's got, somebody might have a comment on a light here or a light there. That's not the operator. It could be the art director, or it could be the set dresser or somebody, and so I've learned to just now relax and accept it. But more, I think more the problem is that in television and episodic, what happens now is that really the DP rarely has the time now to be involved in the color correction process. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's very hard, because once you finish a job, you're on to another one.
Yeah.
And so, and like me, I live in Seattle. I'm not in LA. In LA, where, most of all the post-production work happens, I'm not there present to stop by and look at it. So everything is by phone or remotely. I'm kind of lucky lately, because I've been working with one colorist for Preacher and Westworld. It's the same colorist, Shane Harris, over at Encore. And so that actually is very, very helpful, to have a relationship with one person. They know you, they know your style. That that is something that I would suggest for other DPs to really try and develop a relationship with a colorist, and hopefully, be able to have enough say in a production to be able to say, yeah, well, I'd like to work with this guy.
You
Because
have to
really becomes, yeah, you have to, because it really becomes an extension of you, in a way. They know you, they know how you like, they know what you like, they know, obviously you don't do everything the same way for every show, but there's a shorthand that you can have with that person in terms of talking about the look or what to do, or
I want to take a small step back to film one more time.
Yeah.
You had mentioned that you not totally comfortable shooting on film, hadn't done tons of it before you got into Westworld. How did that change your process while you were shooting?
Well, I realized that film has more latitude than I ever imagined, especially the modern, the latest, I guess, whatever the latest technology and film structure, film grain, and that we have now with Kodak. There's very few film stocks left, really. There's just, I don't know. I would imagine there's only Kodak nowadays to shoot on, and there's probably only like 4 different stocks left.
Yeah.
But it is the latest, greatest technology, Vision 3 and film. And I was really, really amazed at the latitude of film. There were some scenes that I shot in my first episode, which was episode 2. And specifically, I remember a scene where Ed Harris, Man in Black, and Lawrence come into a cantina and sit down at a table and have this long discussion. Man in Black has just rescued Lawrence. They come into this cantina to have this long discussion.
Yeah.
And, I like to light very dark. That's my preference. My heroes are Conrad Hall and Gordon Willis and all those guys. I like darkness. And so I lit the interior. Basically, I didn't light the interior. I just lit from outside. I just pounded light through the windows, through the door, through a window. I supplemented some light for their faces inside, and that was it. Now, when I was reading the exterior with my spot meter, the outside, it was reading about 8 or 9 stops over on the exterior. And I was thinking, well, that's, I don't want to brighten it up in here because it's just going to look lit. If I start adding lights inside, I hate that. I hate when you have, you create so much of a balance just to try and get the outside that it looks lit inside. You start adding one light, then you have to, then you're adding another, you're compounding everything. And then you're starting to, and then the set looks lit. I like things to look very natural. So I said, well, I'm just going to let it go. It is what it is. It'll be blown out outside. The windows are in the background. They're very small. It's okay. Well, when I saw dailies, I was like, I flipped out. It was like amazing. I could see detail outside, where I know that if I was on digital, I would not be able to see detail outside. And on film, I was. And if you look at that scene now, you'll see, you can see clearly. You can see how, it's blown out, but there's so much detail outside.
That's amazing.
That was the first time that I was like surprised with film, pleasantly surprised. I was like, this is amazing. And so that, and then the other thing that I really found that I've always struggled with digital is skin tone. Skin tone on digital is, you have to work on it a lot. I don't know why, every sensor is different, every monitor is different, you get all these different, grades of magentas or cyan or something or other. And what I found with film was that the skin tone was just beautiful. It was just perfect. It was creamy, perfect color. So that's the other thing that really jumped at me was that, and then obviously the grain, the texture, which is something that is so hard to get on digital. We all shoot now with basically the same cameras in a way, Alexas or Reds, or everything in a way starts looking the same. You watch shows and, they kind of all somehow start having the same look. And it's because it's so hard to get texture on digital. You don't have the grain. You can't push like you can do on film, where you push a stop and you get a little more grain in there. Or, you can do all these different chemical processes that you can't do on digital, which is something that's kind of lost. Now we have to, try and, probably use more filtration or do some kind of digital grain software thing to get that. But on film, it's just there. It's inherent in the film. It's a beautiful thing to see.
Do you feel like you have to light less with film than with digital? Is it almost easier in that way?
I found actually that was the one thing that I was questioning before I started doing the show was, does the shooting in film, does it mean that I have to use more light? And what I found, the answer to that question was no. You don't. You can light exactly the same way.
Okay, so you can light the same. You didn't have to change it.
I didn't have to. I lit the same way as I light on digital. Maybe except for the night stuff, when you get at night, night exteriors, you might need a little bit more fill than you would on digital.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, everything else was night interiors. Everything, I used practicals. I could light with practicals if I wanted to. No, it was fantastic. The thing also with lighting with practicals was that on film, the practicals, if you actually see the practical in your shot, it doesn't blow out as much as it does on digital.
Yeah.
It doesn't lose
That's a big
detail.
problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are listening to the PremiumBeat.com Song of the Week. It's called Edgy Pasture by Brightside Studios. Premium Beat is where to go for all of your royalty-free music and sound effects. Their website is awesome. It's got their collection of thousands and thousands of royalty-free tracks for as low as $49 each. You heard me right, $49. That's insane, because you don't just get the individual track, you get cut downs, you get loop sets. So you have the ability to customize your track to fit your project perfectly. So head over there, premiumbeat.com. Check out this particular song of the week, but also just see what else they have to offer. I know you're going to love it. Premiumbeat.com. And lastly, let's talk about Shutterstock.com, shall we? Shutterstock.com is the place to go for your royalty-free video clips. Now, they have a whole bunch of stuff there. They got a fantastic blog. They have images, music, all that. But I'm going to talk about video, because here's the deal. There's over 8 million royalty-free video clips on Shutterstock.com. And many of them are 4K. They just added over 70,000 clips last week. So they keep adding more and more and more. Now, this is pointless to you if it wasn't good stuff, right? Because who cares? But that's the thing. Shutterstock.com has really high quality, very, very nice stuff. So when you go there and you do your search, you're going to be faced with a ton of options that are great. Stuff that's going to elevate your video, stuff that's going to make your work better. And that's what Shutterstock's all about. They have very simple pricing, so it's easy to budget for your clients. You can save hundreds of dollars if you buy video packs, which I do all the time. And it's all there at shutterstock.com/video. Shutterstock.com/video. And go check it out. Do a search, find some stuff. I know you're going to love it. Shutterstock.com/video. All right. There's still a little bit more to talk about with John Grillo. Can you believe it? There's still more, and it's coming up right now. In our last couple of minutes, I want to just talk about your rise to where you are now, because I think it's a really interesting story. You've been in this business for a very, very long time, and you really started at humble beginnings. I saw in your bio you started as an interpreter on Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which was like 1980, what, 5, 6, something like that.
86.
86.
87.
And you just kind of stuck with it, and transitioning to, you did VFX for a little bit, assistant work. I mean,
it all was a gradual process for me. Yeah, I mean, I think my film school lasted about 25 years, basically.
Yeah,
I just soaked it up. I came to LA in '88 on that same film, on Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I was lucky enough that I was trained as a camera assistant, as a loader, doing VFX, old school VFX, which, that was before digital. So it was all stop motion, motion control, matte paintings, all that kind of stuff. It was great. And it afforded me the time to learn and to read the ASC manual and just absorb, really. And then after that, it was I stayed in LA, and I just tried very hard to become a camera assistant. I was a PA for a few years, and then I was a loader. Then I got into commercials and music videos for about 10 years. That's all I did was as a focus puller. I moved up to being a focus puller on commercials and music videos throughout the 90s. And then I was lucky enough to meet a DP by the name of Amir Mokri. And I did commercials with him, and Amir was the first one to give me a shot at being his focus puller on one of his films called The Salton Sea. And then I subsequently kept working with him. He was a huge influence on me. I just basically, unbeknownst to him, he was my teacher. I was observing the way he lit, the way he shot things, the way he set up shots, the way he strategized. And I tried to ask as many questions as I could. And then later on, my second lucky break was meeting and having to work with Michael Mann. And with Michael Mann, I did, from Ali on, I've done all his films, either as a focus puller or as an operator. Mm. And that was another film school for me. I mean, that was Michael Mann University. I just learned so much from that guy, about mostly about composition, really. He's very, 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 very meticulous about composition, and pays very, very, a lot of attention, great attention to detail in what's in the frame, and so that was a huge for me, huge break, and huge thing to having met him and work with him.
What a great experience. And as a focus puller too, when did you transition into full-time camera operation, cinematography?
That was during the shooting of a show called Luck, which is on HBO. I don't know if you remember that show. It was about the racetrack, racehorses, horse racing. It was with Dustin Hoffman.
I'm looking at
Nick
the picture
Nolte.
of it right now. No, I don't remember this.
Yeah, Dustin Hoffman, Nick Nolte. So anyway, it was a show that was executive produced and directed by Michael Mann. So Michael said, "I'm doing this show. It's on HBO. I want you to come and operate." And I operated on the first season. And then one day I went to Michael and I said, "Michael, I have a friend of mine, Rodrigo Prieto, who's shooting a film, and he wants me to shoot second unit as a DP, and I really want to move up to DP. Is it okay if I leave the show and go shoot second unit for him? And Michael said, no, I don't want you to leave the show. And I didn't know you wanted to be a DP. So just hang out. We'll work something out. And later on, he was good for his word. And he gave me an episode to shoot on that show.
Wow.
So I shot my first episode of television on Luck, thanks to him. And eventually I was able to get more work from that.
Yeah, it really is incredible. Grace Point, Hemlock Grove, The Leftovers, of course, Westworld. Your show in its third season, Preacher, right?
Preacher in its third season.
Wow. And now are you transitioning to director now?
Yeah, I got to direct an episode. I was just going to say.
Oh my God. How was that?
That was a lot of fun. That was great. I mean, it helped that I knew the actors. I knew the show. It was already our third season. So it was a good transition. It was a good moment to do it.
Yeah.
I guess my biggest apprehension basically was the one thing that a cinematographer doesn't do much, which is deal with the actors,
Yeah.
Deal with the actors and the subtleties of performance and the subtleties of script and tone. Tone is something that's I would recommend a lot of DPs if you don't go to the tone meetings or you usually skip the tone meetings. I think I would suggest that you really do them because they're very, very valuable. You learn a lot in them.
What is a tone meeting?
A tone meeting is when a showrunner, who is the writer of the show, has a meeting with the episode's director. So they talk specifically about that episode, and they talk about the tone of the show, how the performance should be, what this scene is about, how this scene should be handled tonally, which is very, very important. It's the subtleties of, because that's your tool to go back to the actors and talk to them. And be able to be on the same page in terms of how the scene should be played.
It is very different talking to actors than it is talking to crew. I mean, it's
absolutely,
so different. It's a whole different language.
It's a different language. It's a totally different language, and it's one that is very very subtle. That you have to choose your words carefully, and that you have to come in after a take is done. You have to come in with notes, and usually you don't want to elaborate too long. You want to come in with a few chosen words to guide the performance, and those words are very important. Because the economy of language is very important with actors. You want to be able to find that one word that triggers that emotion that you're trying to get out of them. And you learn a lot of that at the tone meeting. That's why I say tone meetings are very important. They're great. You learn a lot about that part of filmmaking. And it really helps you and informs you as a cinematographer. Because when I go back and I put my cinematographer hat on, having done that, now I understand certain things more on set than I didn't before. Learned a lot more.
Do you think being a director is making you a better cinematographer?
Absolutely. You actually understand and empathize more with what it means to perform. What it means for an actor to do what they do.
Yeah.
The process that they need, the time that they need. And why sometimes something can take longer than you would want it to take, and you're running out of light, or whatever, and it just helps, it helps to know a little bit of everything that goes on set,
Well, so much great information. I mean, you must be, I know we talked about being unhappy with some images once it goes through the process, but you have to be extraordinarily happy with Westworld and Preacher, especially. Those shows both look so great, and phenomenal job on both of them. And It's too bad we didn't get a lot of time to talk about Preacher, but it's fine. We went off into an interesting topic, and I know our audience is going to love it. And that just means we have to have you back to talk more with us in a future episode.
That would be great. Yeah, I hope it didn't get too off topic there, but
that's what this show's all about. Anybody that listens to this knows that we set out to talk about one thing and it goes somewhere else. It's just
okay, great.
It's just the way it is. But I feel like we covered Westworld well, and you know, certainly people can reach out to you. Where's your social media? Where should people follow you?
Let's see.
I've got your Instagram. You got a great Instagram.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm on Instagram.
Grillo310. JGRILLO 310. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. Of course, your website, John Grillo.
My website.
DP.com. You can check out everything you've been working on. And people, reach out to him there. Let him know how much you love his work and maybe ask him some questions. John, you seem like a very open guy that will tell people honestly. And I'm sure you have an appreciation for the people just starting out, especially since you started out so long ago in this industry as an interpreter. So you've seen the rise, which is fantastic.
Yes. My advice always to the interns now that I work with sometimes, they ask questions and what should I do? How do I? And my advice now is do it. Just do it. Take the opportunity to do it. Whatever you want to do it now, because now with digital, we have all the equipment is available. There's no excuses really when you think about it, right? Yeah. I mean, it used to be very hard to get your hands on a film camera, on film, negative, process, the lab, all of that. Now, for $1,000, you can buy yourself a nice digital camera that shoots 4K and go out and shoot your film or your short film or whatever. So you just got to go and do it.
Just this weekend, I was, I didn't have any camera with me and I just wanted to shoot some stuff. I had my phone, iPhone 10. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to download Filmic Pro because people talk about it. I've never used it. I'm like, I'm just going to try it. Yeah. It's incredible what this app can do. It's nuts.
I know.
And it was like $30 or something. I mean, it really turned, especially exteriors, it turned that iPhone into like a legitimate camera for real.
Oh, there is. Well, there is a film that was shot on the iPhone, right? I think it's called Tangerine.
Yeah, I had the guys on the show to talk about it.
Yeah.
And that was way back in like iPhone 5 or something. It was crazy.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's no excuse. You're right. Get out there and do it.
Get out there. The important thing is to find your voice, have something to say, especially if you want to be a director, obviously. But even as a cinematographer, go out and, you got to look at things. You got to observe things. You have to get inspired by photography and art and paintings and music and everything. Just let all that inspire you and then go and find your voice and then go and do something with it,
I love it. John Grillo, thanks so much for being on Go Creative Show, and we'll have to have you back.
Yes. Thank you, Ben.
I want to thank John Grillo for being on the show. Check him out on Instagram. You can get a link to that in the show notes as well. Great guest. And his work on Westworld Season 2 is so good. Really, really good guest. I want to thank Matt Russell, too. He's also a great guest, but not on the show today, unfortunately, but that's okay. We'll have him back. Matt Russell mixes and masters and makes the show sound so delicious. And he can do that for your projects as well. So hire him. Go check him out at gainstructure.com, gainstructure.com, and on Twitter @gainstructure. And while you're on Twitter, you can tweet us at GoCreativeShow, GoCreativeShow.com. Let us know what you think of the show. And lastly, we have to thank our sponsors, Hedge.video, Rule Boston Camera, Shutterstock, NewsShooter.com, and PremiumBeat.com. Without these people, the show would not exist. So support those that support us. We'll see you next week. Bye.